Welcome to the most overrated, underappreciated, most viewed, underviewed podcast of all time. Welcome to the Prince of Fresh Air. This is your host, the most charismatic man in entertainment, aka Mr. No Days Off, with a special guest. That's right. You wonder who he is. He's a fellow Bonaventure graduate. He graduated in May 2020, and he also hosts the Ceraulo Sports Talk, which he interviews former and current athletes of our generation and before our generation and the future generation. Introducing Joe Ceraulo. How you doing, man?
Mr. No Days Off, thank you for having me, brother. I'm doing great. I could not be better. I'm pumped. Great start to a long weekend here joining the show, man. Let's get it on.
The main conversation I wanted to have was celebrity boxing. You're seeing this time and time again. We talked about Logan Paul, Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson. Now you have Jake Paul going against Floyd Mayweather in a couple months. What do you think about the current state of boxing? Do you think celebrity boxing is taking away the true essence of boxing?
Yeah, so it's tricky, right? Because with the emergence of the UFC, and you got to give Dana White a ton of credit. He is a marketing genius. What he's done with that league, he's overtaken boxing. Ultimate Fighting is where it's at. It's what people our age prefer. I know, you do. I don't, but I'm a rare exception. I'm also a 22-year-old who loves baseball, and there aren't too many of those out there right now.
True.
so it's all UFC is where it's at right now. For me, I love boxing, but boxing does need to reinvent itself a bit. Back in the day, you in any decade, any era had maybe 8-10 boxers that any casual fan could name. Nowadays, you ask people to name boxers. I mean, Floyd Mayweather was retired for a while. He's coming back to fight Logan Paul, Jake's brother, which he's going to embarrass him. But nowadays, if you ask the casual fan who they know, it's Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. I mean, I'm trying to think as a casual fan, I don't really know if there's too many other names out there outside of 3 to 5 guys that they're familiar with. And that's a huge problem from a marketing standpoint for the sport of boxing. Now, I love it. I mean, there are fights, there's an IBF super middleweight fight that I could get into now or I could get into later on January 30th that I can't wait for. But, that's because I'm a boxing enthusiast. Those are far and few between right now. So maybe celebrity boxing is what they need to draw interest back into it. But you also maybe have celebrities do one of the earlier fights and, headline it with a legit fight because you want to get the audience there. And then, maybe Logan Paul, Jake Paul will get the audience to tune in, but then once they're there, headline it with a big one because you need the real sport to get more love from the casual fan because these guys, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, these guys are not legit. They say that they're going to be legit. They say they're going to be boxers. They ain't shit.
Right. And until they fight real fighters, like hopefully Floyd embarrasses Logan Paul. But again, why does Floyd come out of retirement air quotes, and fight Jake Paul? I think Logan Paul. I always confuse their names together, but I just think that's just too beneath him. And what's happening is, I'm a UFC guy, so when I see boxing headlines and I see that the biggest draw in boxing is fighting a YouTuber, my automatic response is, "Where's the other boxers at?" I remember Andy Ruiz. He blew up out of nowhere, but that was only because he was given an opportunity.
Anthony Joshua, baby.
Exactly. And a lot of these boxers are, Ceraulo brothers, for instance. They're fighting year long and, they're always in the ring, but they don't get the same opportunities that Jake Paul and Logan Paul get. And they've been doing this way longer than they have. So, again, I know there's a market for celebrity boxing, but I think it's overtaking the sport because when you look at the Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. fight, the second and main event was Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson. So I think if they're going to do that, at least put the secondary main event towards like the prelims, so it gets people amped up and it gives those boxers who's been doing it for years and a long time the opportunity to get their shine on. But a lot of these boxing cards, especially when you throw YouTubers and celebrities, nobody's watching it for the Ceraulo brothers or whoever else is fighting on the card. They just want to see Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, and the YouTubers or the celebrities fighting. So I just look at it as a negative because the UFC don't do cross promotion. They don't do celebrities come up in the octagon and fight. And you never see YouTubers or celebrities call out John Jones. And you don't see John Jones going in the octagon with him. I don't know. There's many different reasons why that could be, but I just think boxing is a little less dangerous than UFC. So it's a lot easier to.
I'm sorry. It's totally less dangerous. I completely agree with you. You know, I got into boxing. I wouldn't try my hand at UFC. That's just not for me. You know, I don't know grappling and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and all that shit. You know, I figured I can learn how to box, and I can, you know, I throw a pretty good punch. I can translate that into boxing, of course, with the footwork and the head movement and the mental aspect of the sport. You know, I figured that I could translate some stuff that I already have into that. UFC, I wouldn't go near. And, you know, if Jake Paul, Logan Paul stepped into the octagon with John Jones or Kamaru Usman or, Jorge Masvidal, they wouldn't just get knocked out. They could get killed. And that's why that's why they don't venture into that sport. But also the reason that the UFC on their end doesn't go after celebrities, doesn't need to, is because they don't have a marketing problem. The UFC right now is profiting. Don't forget, throughout this entire pandemic, before any other sport, baseball, football, basketball, came back in, I believe, July. That was when baseball came back, July 24th. Before any of that, they were having UFC fights. You know, Dana White set up Fight Island. That's how much the sport has flourished, that this man got a fucking island in the Middle East and he was like, it's a go. We're not missing any time because of a pandemic. A pandemic can't stop the UFC. And, even though it's not my personal thing, you'd be an idiot not to recognize the absolute brilliance and genius from a marketing standpoint and from a business perspective that Dana White has brought to the table since buying that company.
100%. And you hit it right on the head. That is the biggest problem, is marketing. When you look at UFC, besides, the Conor McGregors and the John Jones and Khabib Nurmagomedov, you can name at least 50 other fighters. Francis Ngannou, Cain Velasquez, Donald Cowboy Cerrone, Anthony Pettis. You can name hundreds of other fighters that aren't even on the John Jones level. Boxing, you only could probably give me 8. And that's being generous. And that's the issue. They're having these YouTubers headline pay-per-views to, bring in revenue, which is great. I'm not knocking the business side of it. But what about the people who are trained to do this stuff? They're not getting an opportunity because you got celebrities taking their spot. And I get it from a business standpoint. Do that. I understand it. I know there's a market that people will pay to see Jake Paul get his ass kicked. But you're also sacrificing that spot for other people who's been struggling, who's been clawing their way to the top, who has gym fees, who got a life to, provide for, a family to provide for. And you're giving it away to people who haven't even trained in the sport for like 2 years. It's ridiculous. I think it's redundant. And it's a slap in the face, not only to boxing, but to boxers, actual boxers, because now it's showing people that all you got to do is create a YouTube channel or go viral on social media, and you'll get the opportunity. All you got to do is call somebody out, and that's it.
Yeah, and look, I don't disagree with you at all. I don't disagree with a damn thing that you just said. The bottom line is, though, it's a dog-eat-dog world, right? And boxing has to do what's best for boxing. And if boxing puts, the Ceraulo brothers on a pay-per-view fight, or if they put the Paul brothers on a pay-per-view fight, they're going to make more money with the Paul brothers being on a pay-per-view fight. That Triller lineup, I believe, Triller, it was presented by Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, Jake Paul, Nate Robinson. They made a ton off that fight. I mean, that got people to watch. I watched. I know a lot of other people that watch too, Now, right. I watched, I will say, if it was just Jake Paul, Nate Robinson, I would not have bought that. I bought it for Mike Tyson. I wanted to see Mike and Roy Jones go at it, and that was worth every penny. Jake Paul, Nate Robinson was not, but it's all about money. And, you asked earlier to answer a question that, you posed before. Why would Floyd Mayweather stoop down and fight Logan Paul? What's Floyd Mayweather's nickname, baby? Money Mayweather. Because he's getting way more money fighting Logan Paul than he would fighting probably any other professional boxer right now, with the exception of a rematch with Manny Pacquiao.
I don't follow boxing often. Yeah, I'll probably see what's going on with Deontay Wilder and his excuses, or when is the next...
easy. Deontay's my boy. I've had him on my show. Take it easy. Don't
go. Oh, word! I'm a big fan of Deontay.
Don't go. You better be.
No,
So, hey,
but you gotta admit though, some of those excuses he was using after that fight, it was a little
no.
hilarious.
Listen, here's where Deontay went wrong. What Deontay did in that walkout, in that intro, was one of the dumbest walkouts I have ever seen. Deontay Wilder walking out there with a costume of body armor that looked like it weighed 40 pounds. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy was already exhausted before the fight started. When he stepped into the ring, when he took that shit off, he was sweating his ass off. He was toast. He was done. That's where Deontay went wrong. Deontay in that first fight with Tyson Fury, which was ruled a draw, beat Tyson. Deontay, I think, in a third fight would beat Tyson. Deontay Wilder is the baddest motherfucker alive.
Oh, I agree. I think Deontay Wilder. Look, people crap on Deontay Wilder all the time and say he's a one-hit wonder. But look, let's be honest here. When it comes to combat,
Fuck out of here with that
yeah,
one-hit wonder.
when it comes to combat, it don't matter how many flashy spinning back kicks you can do. It's all about your knuckle game. So
Mano y mano. And
exactly.
Deontay is a mano.
Look at UFC. Like John Jones, favorite fighter Khabib, favorite fighters. They dominate in their specific field. John Jones is a little more versatile than Khabib.
Yeah.
But when you look at Derek Lewis, who's probably one of the best faces of UFC right now, Francis Ngannou, these are guys that just strictly knock people out. They don't do all of these flying kicks and flying knees. All they need to do is connect with a punch, and that's it. So for people who ragdoll Deontay Wilder, I don't think they understand how powerful that man is. Now, in terms of the walkout, I do agree that he shouldn't have wore that 50-pound costume.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, my thing for him was this: he should have just left it at that. But then, a couple months later, he went. Tyson Fury had something in his glove. Well, I don't think it was him, but I think his brother said this. Then, his brother said that. And then another thing was apparently he got sick or something. I just think that if he would have just left it at that, people probably would have forgot about it. But I think every couple months you hear a new excuse from his brother or his agent or his promoter. I think that's why some people turn away from him because, just take the loss and move on. But the people around him are making it worse. I think that's probably the biggest reason why. Maybe you know more because you interviewed him, but I haven't heard about the third trilogy fight yet.
Well, no, I mean, when I spoke to him, it was back in 2 years ago. We're talking almost. We're talking in Atlanta before Super Bowl 53. So when I interviewed Deontay Wilder, we're talking like 22 months ago. So no, I don't know what's going on with the trilogy with the third fight. Obviously, I'm sure there's some COVID complications with it. But whenever it does happen, because I'm confident it will happen, Deontay Wilder is going to be back to being the heavyweight champion of the world.
Now, since we talking about pay-per-views, let's quickly get into Floyd Money Mayweather versus Logan Paul. What is your official prediction? Do you think Logan Paul could find a way to knock out Floyd Mayweather?
It's tough. First off, did you say knockout or beat? You said knockout.
Knockout, because my thing is
no shot in hell. No shot in hell. He can't get close enough to Floyd Mayweather. I thought you were going to say beat, and I was going to say, my only concern is if they go the distance some way, somehow, that the judges go the route of the amateur there and try to, side with Logan Paul. But the thing is, Logan can't get close enough to Floyd to deliver a knockout on him. Logan Paul is going to land, here's my big prediction, less than 15% of his punches will be landed on Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather is one of the most elusive, maybe the most elusive boxer of all time. There's a reason that he's undefeated. If Conor McGregor couldn't do it, Logan Paul doesn't stand a fucking chance in hell, man. Logan Paul is a nobody. Money Mayweather is one of the best of all time.
Well, I only bring that up because I didn't know if that was going to be a catchway because, we seen with the Floyd and Conor fight that they was already about to screw Conor anyway, because when you look at the scorecards, Conor arguably probably won about 4 to 5 rounds. And that's
I don't know about hold on. But, were you in school watching that fight?
No, like the earlier rounds. He won more than one.
I don't think so. I thought Conor won one round that night. So I was at, and this is for the Bonaventure audience. I was at Train that night watching the fight. That was the first night back my sophomore year, and I went to Train. They bought the fight, and I was watching that. And I might have missed little bits and pieces here and there because there was a new transfer student maybe like a 5'7" blonde who I had on my arm most of the night. So she might have been distracting me a little bit from the fight now and then. But what I did see of that fight, which was most of it, and I let her know, I was like, look, you have all my attention after this fight, but I am very into this fight.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Mayweather wiped the floor at McGregor. It wasn't that close. And this fight won't be as close as that one was. This fight, I would say for my prediction, second round knockout. Mayweather knocks out Paul in the second round. My only thing with that is Mayweather does a lot of dancing. He does a lot of, jumping around the ring, a lot of elusiveness. So I don't know if they're going to get close enough for Mayweather to deliver a knockout lick in the second round. But I'm going to say this one doesn't go more than 3 rounds. I'll go second round knockout, Floyd Money Mayweather.